Since You Went Away was released in 1944, directed by John Cromwell, written by David O. Selznick, and stars Claudette Colbert, Jennifer Jones, Joseph Cotten, Shirley Temple, and Monty Woolley, among many others. The film tells the story of Anne Hilton, played by Claudette Colbert, who in January of 1943 has just seen her husband off after he joined the army. She and her two daughters must learn to adjust to life without their husband and father, while making sacrifices to help the war effort, and helping those around them who are also going through this difficult time as well. Since You Went Away belongs to the homefront war drama genre, one that became quite prevalent during the years of World War II. What makes this and other movies like it so interesting is the perspective of experiencing the horrors and loss of war while never actually seeing any footage from the battlefield. We, the audience, have the same information that the main characters do, so we are just as in the dark as to where their loved ones are at any given moment, whether they're in action or stationed away from the fighting. That uncertainty is very effective, as it conveys the hopelessness and loneliness of those left at home really well. It was written and produced by David O. Selznick, most famous as the producer of Gone with the Wind, and this definitely seems like it's his World War II answer to that classic film. Pretty much across the board, the cast does a great job. Claudette Colbert gives a very moving performance, portraying a mother who must keep a brave face in front of her daughters, while at the same time becoming more and more emotionally frayed after her husband is declared missing in action at one point. A major focus of the film is the public's attitude about the war, and whether they see the necessity of the men of their town leaving to join the fight. And that is a big part of Claudette Colbert's character arc. In the opening moments of the movie, you see her get home alone after her husband has just left, and her inner monologue makes it clear that she doesn't understand his desire to join the military. That attitude is something that changes throughout the course of the movie, as you see her change from that mindset she had initially to becoming much more understanding and eventually supportive of what the whole country was doing and going through together. Claudette Colbert is a really great actress. She made so many great movies through the 1930s and 40s especially, and I've never seen her give a bad performance. She could do something like this with so much dramatic heft and range required, or she could do a light comedy like It Happened One Night or The Palm Beach Story, and be just as great in all of them. Jennifer Jones and Shirley Temple play her daughters, Jane and Bridget, and the three of them have great chemistry as a family. Their roles in the film are to show how young people at the time also got involved in the home front side of the war, whether that be collecting scrap metal or helping at the hospital or many other things. Shirley Temple is always very watchable. I thought she was very good here, but not given quite as much to do as Jennifer Jones. Jennifer Jones is obviously playing the older daughter, and she first has to deal with a crush that she has on a family friend who stops by periodically during the movie, played by Joseph Cotten. This eventually fades as she falls for a young soldier played by Robert Walker, who was her real-life husband at the time. There are some story developments and tragedies that happen during the movie that I won't get into here, but I'll just say that she has a role that requires a great deal more emotional range and difficult moments to get through. I did find her performance a little bit overdone at times, but overall still very fitting with the tone of the movie. The movie is definitely on the sentimental, syrupy side, but I can usually excuse that in these types of movies made during the war. The intention was at the time to make movies that would lift the spirits of the audience and give them characters they could completely relate to and give them hope. So I always find it a little strange when people try and look back and judge films for their sentimentality. I think if these movies were able to help people at the time when they watched them, then they have served their purpose, and getting to look back on them now is kind of heartwarming. Thinking about a time when the cynical machine that is Hollywood had a different goal in mind other than just making money. At least I like to think so. As I mentioned earlier, the movie also stars Joseph Cotten, and I've said before and I'll say again, he is a fantastic actor. He plays a quite charming and lighthearted character here, and his function in the movie is very much the same as his function to the central three characters. He never seems to be in a bad mood, always ready with a funny comment or a compliment, and every time he shows up, it's great to see him. As I'd said, he's a family friend who is also the best man at Anne and her husband's wedding. And despite that, it becomes very obvious to us and the characters in the movie that he has always been smitten with Anne. But he is an honorable man, so it never goes beyond some humorous flirting. I thought he was excellent in the movie, as always, and his appearances in it always seem to come when it really needs it. The story can get quite dark or sad at times, and whenever he's back in town, he always shows up to lighten their burden and distract them from whatever situation they're dealing with. His character is a Navy officer, and we get little hints that despite his downplaying it and never seeming to take the war too seriously, he is quite the decorated and heroic character himself. Monty Woolley is also in the film, playing a retired military officer who rents a room in the Hilton's house when they're in need of money. He's a good character to throw into the mix, initially being very stern and standoffish, but it's great seeing him warm up to the family and them coming to befriend him more and more as well. There are quite a few recognizable actors in smaller roles here, with Lionel Barrymore as a reverend at their church, Agnes Moorehead playing a particularly snooty and disaffected friend of Claudette Colbert's. And she is perfect at these types of parts and is almost the villain of the movie in some ways. There's also Keenan Wynn, Guy Madison, and Hattie McDaniel, who is not a small character actually. She plays the housekeeper who also ends up coming back to live with them. Their house gets very full by the end of the movie after they had let her go earlier in the movie due to not being able to pay her. She is also a great comedic player, and her scenes playing off Monty Woolley and Joseph Cotten are very funny. For as serious of subject matter this movie covers, there are a lot of really funny moments interspersed as well. The score is by Max Steiner, and as usual, the music from him is fantastic. I'm a big fan of his. His score for The Searchers is one of my personal favorites, and his work in so many movies, especially at Warner Brothers, although this movie wasn't produced by them, is so great. He has one of those names that as soon as I see it in the credits, then I clue in why I'm enjoying the theme music so much. The cinematography is great as well, with very crisp black and white photography. I thought the use of shadows, especially in there's a scene at the train station, they were very well done, and certain wide shots or ones showing the number of extras or the huge sets really gave this movie an epic feel. For example, there's a party at a nearby airbase, or a scene at a hotel that the family travels to at one point. Even something as simple as Jennifer Jones' character and her boyfriend going for a walk in a field. All are shot to such great effect, really showcasing the expansive style the movie is going for. One thing I really appreciate about this movie is its themes of faith and the presence of God. I'm a Christian, and something I love that happens in some older movies are these occasional references to Christian messages. They're not necessarily big, but the impact is. Nowadays, there are specific production companies that make Christian films, and that's great. But back then, it's just so amazing to me that in a movie not produced by a faith-based company, and not starring actors known for their faith-based films, that there are these little references, like a sign that was outside the hospital that says, "Man dresses the wound, God heals it." Or at the very end of the movie, which is a scripture reference from Psalm 31. This is a movie about people in situations where they feel powerless and probably pretty hopeless at times, not knowing if their husband or father is alive or dead, if a fiance is in battle or not. And these acknowledgments that their only hope comes from God was just so great to see. And while I know it's unlikely, I would love if more movies today would do things like that. Which reminds me, just a quick shout out to the Tom Hanks war movie Greyhound from a couple of years ago. That was a mainstream movie with a major star, but playing a Christian character. And that movie also did not shy away from that fact. And I absolutely love seeing things like that in movies. If that can just pop in during a movie where people might not expect it, I think and I hope that that could plant a seed for people. I really enjoyed this movie, and if you're in the mood for a well-acted drama with a list of great actors getting to work together, I think you will too. Keep in mind it clocks in at nearly 3 hours, so the epic feel of the movie is also demonstrated in the runtime, but it never drags. It's very well paced, the performances are always drawing you in, and hey, there's even a section that's set at Christmas time, so if you're getting close to that season, you can watch it around then too. All in all, I highly recommend this movie. It's a war movie, but it's a bit different from the usual battlefield set story. So I really enjoyed it, and I hope that you will too. I want to say thank you for watching this review, and if you enjoyed it, please check back to my channel, Hildebrand Productions. Adios for now.